Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, Mr. Chairman, I've heard a lot of testimony over the years in this committee, but I think I've never heard a more eloquent testimony than that little baby up on the screen. The heartbeat there should be able to speak to the hardest heart. And, you know, I'm also a little bewildered when people tell me that the subject of today's hearing is somehow diminished and it is not as important as all these other things that we do. And yet it goes to the very heart of who we are as a human family. And it also goes to the heart of who we are as Americans. You know, we once held certain truths to be self-evident, that we're all created, and that's what makes us equal. And that we are endowed by our Creator with the unalienable right to live. And that to secure these rights, that's why governments exist. So this goes to the heart of every reason that we're here in this place. So for someone to diminish it seems rather sad. The question I ask myself this morning are as follows. I mean, do the words of the Declaration of Independence still apply? Are we still someone a group that holds certain truths to be self-evident? Are these really little babies? That's a big one. Is there really a God? And what if these little helpless human beings really are His children? Those are questions to me that have great significance in my heart. And so my question for you, Ms. Smith, today is that, as you know, you've previously appeared before this committee on September 9th, 2015. And during that hearing, you said the following. You said, quote, "I believe for a pre-viable fetus that a D&E procedure is a very humane procedure, a very humane procedure," unquote. Now, I want to read to you, if I can, how Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy has described such a procedure using the testimony of an abortionist named Carhart. He said, quote, "The fetus can be alive at the beginning of the dismemberment process and can survive for a time while its limbs are being torn off. Dr. Carhart agreed that, quote, when you pull out a piece of the fetus, let's say an arm or a leg, and remove that, at the time just prior to removal of the portion of the fetus is alive. Dr. Carhart has observed fetal heartbeat via ultrasound with extensive parts of the fetus, quote, removed, and testified that mere dismemberment of a limb does not always cause death, because he knows of a physician who removed the arm of a fetus only to have the fetus go on to be born as a living child with one arm. And at the conclusion of a D&E abortion, no intact fetus remains. In Dr. Carhart's words, the abortionist is left with a tray full of pieces. So Mrs. Smith, and I'd like Dr. Altman to answer the question afterwards as well. So Mrs. Smith, is it still your opinion that a D&E abortion is humane?
A D&E abortion is not what we're talking about here. This is
That's
a bill
my
that
question.
would ban abortions at 6 weeks of pregnancy when early medication
But
abortion.
my question, Ms. Smith, and if you don't want to answer it, I understand.
I'm
I can
happy
move on.
to answer the question as well, but
you
I'm
said
just
that you
pointing
said
out
in your
that
last
this bill
testimony
has
you said in
nothing
your
to
last
do with
testimony that
that.
it was humane. So I would ask you,
It
is
is
it your
the
opinion? Is it
safest-
still your opinion that a D&E abortion is humane?
It's the safest and most common procedure used in the second trimester.
But you won't answer the question, and I
It's
fully
humane. I'll
let me
use
just
the
say
word
I'm going to move
humane.
on, but I fully
Absolutely.
understand why you won't answer the
No,
question.
I
would
said
ask
it's a
only that you
humane
ask yourself
procedure.
after this committee hearing why you wouldn't answer the question.
You're
Mrs.
trying
Altman,
to
Dr. Altman,
relitigate-
would you answer
I'd
the
like
question?
to answer the question that you posed to me.
I'm going to move on, milady.
Okay.
Dr. Altman, would you answer the question?
Mr. Chairman,
I tried.
No, you didn't.
It is.
I think she
It
answered
is-
the question. Yeah, you didn't hear it, but she did answer.
The gentleman says,
Thank you.
It
gentleman
is
from
not.
Arizona controls the time.
It is one of the most inhumane procedures I can imagine, and the only reason we have tolerated it is to allow women to have that convenience.
Well, can you explain the conflict that you personally came to feel when you were working to save some unborn children during some parts of the week, but then working to kill others at other times of the week, and What did you come to realize after that experience?
When I was in my neonatal rotation, I realized that the babies I was trying to save, some of them were the same gestation as babies I was aborting. It's amazing, though, how we can be so compartmentalized and so unthinking, because it really wasn't until later that I finally made that baby-fetus connection and realized what I was doing. I never called someone in the womb a fetus unless I was going to abort it. Otherwise, it was a baby.
Yeah.
And we have, we have just for so long denied the rights of these little people that are people.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I would just suggest that what we're doing to these little babies is real, and America's eyes are beginning to open.